Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our pre-match press conference to preview our fixture against Brentford this weekend. And if we can start off with Vinny O'Connor from Sky Sports, please.
Hi, Rafa. Hope you're well.
Good afternoon. You okay?
I just wanted to get, first of all, what's the latest on Damari Gray and when might you have him available again?
He was doing a light training session today, very light. So we will see if he can be available, but maybe we don't have too much time, but it was okay. It was less than we were expecting.
Also, Yerry Mina, when might you have him back? And do you have any definite return dates yet for Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Abdoulaye Doucouré?
No, Yerry is doing well, but still not ready. Obviously, Dominic, not yet. But I will say, talking about that we are bringing back some players. The problem is that some of the key players that we are missing already, it seems that they are more important because we are not winning. But the reality is that we have less injuries and we are getting better in this department.
What then, Rafa, do you feel you need from your players now to give you the best chance of halting this run of form, particularly against a team like Brentford?
I think that what we did at the beginning of the season for so many games, so if you remember the games against Brighton or Manchester United or the games at home, so we did so well that everybody was expecting that we could continue at this level. We were missing players through injuries, and then it was affecting us maybe too much. Then we need to be sure that we have these players coming back, and then we have the group with the same attitude and mentality that we have at the beginning. And it's a question of time that you can win the first game, and hopefully will be the next one, and then the confidence goes back.
With that in mind then as well, Rafa, what importance do you put on this one game, particularly as Brentford can go above you in the table with a win?
Yeah, I think for us it's important to win any game, but this is the first one that we have, and it's a team that they are doing well in the Premier League now, but we are close in the table. But think about that, just winning one game, we could be really close to the top six. So then that is the situation in the table now. There are a lot of teams that are very close. Then one game can change everything. Hopefully, this game will change everything for us, and we will be higher in the table and with more confidence for the next ones.
Thanks, Rafa.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vinny. We'll go to Paul Walker, please, at Premier League Productions.
Hi, Rafa. Just following on Brentford, what have your opinions been on how they've settled into the Premier League?
I think they are doing really well. They started really well with a lot of confidence, with intensity, playing well, and they got some points. Now it's more difficult because little by little everybody knows you better, and then it's more difficult to surprise anyone. But in terms of these kind of teams, that they have the advantage that they have been working the same way for a while. They know exactly what the manager wants, and the players, they know each other really well. So that is the main strength of these teams, and they are doing well.
Ivan Toney you had at Newcastle, and at the time it wasn't in your plans. I just wondered what your memories are of him then and how you would summarise his qualities now.
One of the things that they were talking about, I didn't meet Ivan Toney anytime. I didn't coach him any day, so I didn't talk with him when I was there because he was on loan, and after they sent him on loan. And all the reports that I had when I was asking for players for the first team, nobody was telling me that he was an option and he was on loan and they sold him. So I don't have any contact with Ivan Toney, and I didn't have any contact with him.
But you'll be impressed with him, no doubt.
No, yes.
He's been on.
No, he's doing really well. So I was following him last year and this year, and he's doing really well. So I cannot argue about that. But some people say, no, it's Rafa. Didn't use no, I didn't see the player. I didn't talk with the player anytime because he was on loan, and they sent on loan the time that I was there, and I was not aware of anything about him until he was doing really well in the Championship, and he's doing really well now in the Premier League.
One final one from me before I go. I gather Richarlison is suspended this weekend, yes? So who is likely to come in?
Yeah, at the moment we have two experienced players, Tosun and Rondon, available, and a young player that was injured and then is coming back. That it seems these are the players if you talk about strikers, but Normally, these kind of games is games for people with experience, so then they have more chances, the two senior players, to be ahead of Sims, the young player.
Thank you, Rafa. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. We'll go to James Mountford, please, at Radio Merseyside. James, I think you're on mute, James.
Apologies, we're only 18 months into this. I'm still learning it. Rafa, I just wondered, after the Manchester City game, you spoke about the fact that you perhaps needed a more offensive mentality. Do you think that the game against Brentford gives you the opportunity to be more expansive going forward?
Yeah, it was more about the chances that we have when we could go forward and we could be dangerous in the counter-attack, that we have 4 or 5 situations, especially the first one of the Demarai Gray and the second one of Iwobi. This a pity that we didn't have this determination, to put the defenders of Manchester City under pressure. So that was I wanted to say, and it's clear that this is a different kind of game. So we play against a good team that they play at home, but still we have to compete with them and we have to push them and we have to go there trying to get the 3 points.
Well, the fact that you've not won since September, in the league, might appear slightly harsh. How frustrated are you? How frustrated the player with the current run of results?
Yeah, I think that we had been quite close in some of these games that we lost or we drew and then we could win. But anyway, obviously we want to win and we are really disappointed because we cannot do it. But the team, and I will say the game against Tottenham at home was a reaction of the team, knowing the way that we were playing in the past, and we did it against Tottenham in the same way. So we have been very close. And this competition, don't forget that you can see a lot of records, a lot of stats in the last years on teams not winning games in a row, because if you have a bad run with the top side, and if you cannot win against a team that is maybe more, I would say, affordable, if you cannot win against this team and then you have a top size around, you can be for some time without winning. But the reality is that with a one win with 3 points, we will be in a much, much better position because we are very tight in the table.
On Richarlison, of course, he misses the game because of 5 yellow cards, which is quite a lot to have at this stage of the season. So is there anything you'd like to take out of his game that prevents him getting more yellow cards in the future?
Yeah, I think he knows that it's too early for have 5 yellow cards. I think everybody knows that it's like that. And then he has to realize that he cannot react sometimes, and he has to stay more calm when during the game, or sometimes his frustration if it's a foul or they don't give the foul, then his reaction is a little bit out of control. So he has to be more aware of that, and after try to focus on the game, because he's a very good player and he can be an important player for us, and he's a threat for the defenders if he stays focused.
And just one more from me, if I may. The current run of injuries you've got, is that affecting your plans in January?
Yeah, I would say that the key for the injuries is not the number of injuries, it's just the key players that are injured. So if you analyze now, we are doing much better in terms of injuries respecting on the past, in terms of players like Delph, that normally he was injured, is available, is training every day. Givamin, that was injured for a couple of years, is available, is training every day. Tosun, that was injured for a long time, is available and training every day. Even Sims, that was injured for a while, he's training. So we are bringing players back from injuries. The problem that we have key players, we have had key players injured, and then was affecting the results. That is the point for us.
Thank you.
Thanks, James. We'll go to Carl Markham at the Press Association, please.
Hi. You've spoken optimistically about getting players back from injury, but is there apart from Gray, you mentioned, is anybody likely to be definitely back this weekend that's been out long term?
Yeah, the one that was unexpected because it was a metatarsal injury was Doucouré. has been training today, so is one player that maybe could be available of these players that I said before. We have 4 or 5, so we cannot control the injury of Tom Davies because it was a knee problem, and the others are getting closer, but they're still not available. But I think Doucouré has a chance.
How careful do you have to be with him? I mean, him being out for the time he's been, and obviously you've got to measure that with the problems you've got in terms of filling that midfield. Yeah,
it's not because it's a metatarsal issue. If he's fine, he's fine. So it's not that an injury problem, a muscle problem. Sorry, that you say we have to be careful because you cannot overload. So we have to be sure that he goes to the game if he's available, fine, and everything is healed and the player is confident. If it's like that, it's a risk. Always a risk when you come back from injury, but it's not a massive risk.
Okay, and you touched on a bit earlier that in situations like this, teams often have to rely on sort of youth team players or academy players to fill the gap. But and you've had a couple on the bench recently, but how helpful is it to them, to be brought into the situation when, say, you're so stretched? Is it helpful to them to be involved in the squad, or is it asking them too much of them and a bit unfair to bring them in?
No, I think we used to have the same problem every year. Here in every country and in every club, when we talk about young players, it seems that to be young is to be good enough. Anthony Gordon is a young player, and people were asking for him to play, and after 2 or 3 weeks, he was mentally ready. He's a player with quality, he's playing. So when the players are good enough and mentally ready, they can play. But in some positions, maybe you don't have this player, or the young players, maybe they have the potential, but they don't have the experience and the mentality at this time. When it's a difficult situation, some of them, they will need more time. If you have top-class players, if you have Rooney with 17 years old, he can play. But there are not too many. I have Raúl in Madrid, that he can play. But not too many players can play when they are still young players. And then some people will say, we have to give them an opportunity because young players doesn't mean good players, mean young players. Some of them, they will need more time than others.
Okay, just one more. You mentioned about Gbamin earlier as well. He's not featured much since that half against Wolves. What have you been doing with him to get him ready, to step in when needed?
Yeah, I would say that to be fair, it's complicated. After 2 years to play against Wolves and a team that is passing the ball was not easy for him. It was not easy for the team, but it was not easy for him. Then after we have to make a decision against Tottenham because we're 50 minutes to go, and then I put Holgate that used to play in this position sometimes. It was not great. We have to be honest that they didn't work, but you have to make these kind of decisions, and the players, they have to accept that sometimes it's like that. You have to go there, and maybe even if you are not ready, you have to perform. If not, the only way to change the next decision is to be working harder. In this case, Gbamin has been training well today, so I'm happy with that, and hopefully he can understand that sometimes you have to make decisions, and it's just your job.
Thank you, Rafa.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. That's the end of the open section. We'll now move on to the newspapers, so if everybody else can leave the line at this point, please.